And we are back. Welcome to an all-new edition of Buckets and Dimes, Nuts and Bolts Sports NBA podcast. Yeah, it's March Madness. We are NBA junkies. We're all about the NBA. Of course, this is Joe Cardozo, joined as always by Patrick Hillwig. How are your brackets doing, Pat, and how are you doing, man?
Man, I am doing great. The weather outside is phenomenal right now. It's going to drop tomorrow in the 30s up here in Maryland. But, hey, it's heating up right now. You talked about it, March Madness. My brackets are doing great. I think I'm like everybody else. Kansas falling out kind of hurt me, but hey, my Seminoles, baby, my Seminoles, they're marching. They're going to beat Gonzaga. Mark my words. I said it here first. They're going to beat Gonzaga. They beat them last year. They're going to beat them again this year. In the
Bold
Sweet
words.
16.
Let's save that.
Now, hey, we beat them last year in the Sweet 16. It's back to back. Let's go. But no, really, March is a great time for us for sports with college basketball, but also it means the end of the season for the NBA. And you talked about it before we got on here, man. Like there's some teams that are making that push to make the playoffs, and it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to give a quick shout out to CBS too for their not just for the March Madness website, but for adding that boss button. You hit the boss button, spreadsheets pop up on your computer, makes you look super productive. Definitely saved my butt a couple times this past week. So shout out to CBS Sports and MarchMadness.com. But let's jump right into it, man, with our top 10. That is the top 10 teams in the eyes of Patrick and myself. I'll go ahead and set things off with my weekly top 10. I have the Golden State Warriors at 1, the Denver Nuggets at 2, the Milwaukee Bucks at 3, Houston 4, Toronto 5, the Trailblazers at 6, Philadelphia at 7. I went OKC at number 8, the red-hot San Antonio Spurs at 9, and you can say I copped out with number 10, picking two teams. I have the Clippers and the Boston Celtics as my 10th-ranked teams in the National Basketball Association.
Hey, no problem here with adding those extra teams in the top 10 because I did the same thing earlier too. You can't
it's
decide,
tough, man.
right?
Yeah,
you can't decide.
Hard.
You got an A and a B. Hey, it's our podcast. It's our rules. We make them up as we go. So perfect, man. Yeah, I still can't take the Bucks out from that number 1 spot. I think that they're just still the best team in the conference right now. I got the Bucks. I got the Raptors. The Nuggets, after 6 wins in a row, I've got coming in at number 3. The Warriors, they're a great team, but I don't think
tough loss today, man. With the Mavericks,
real tough loss, right? And they lost to the Magic a week or so ago. I mean, they've got some tough losses. Coming in at number 5, I've got the Rockets. They're one of my favorite teams right now this year. The Spurs, man, where did they come from? I mean, we've talked about them, but I don't think we've talked enough about them because they're creeping up to number 6 in the Western Conference. It's crazy. So I got the Sixers at number 8. 7. The Blazers coming in at 8. The Thunder, I don't know what's going on with them. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They lose to the Raptors. They beat the Raptors. I mean, I don't know what's going on with them. And then the Clippers coming in at 10.
So there you have it. That's our top 10 for the NBA this week. I was shocked that you didn't have the Orlando Magic in there, Pat.
Hey, if I was on the fence. I was on the fence. The way they've been playing lately, they're a hot team right now.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And they're pushing Miami.
All jokes aside, they're a legit team. They have a chance to make the playoffs. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Unfortunately, it's part of the game, but injuries happen in the NBA. We talked about at the top of the show with the season coming to an end. A lot of teams have guys that have been banged up all year, and because there's no chance of that team making the playoffs, why risk further injury? So guys are getting shut down. Injuries that we thought were minor have now become to the light that are a little bit more than minor. Some of the guys that are done for the season, Derrick Rose, who I thought had a great chance to be the NBA Sixth Man of the Year. I mean, that 50-point game he had earlier this year, definitely a key piece of the Timberwolves team. Kelly Oubre Jr., you had Wendell Carter of the Bulls. You had Chandler Hutchison of the Chicago Bulls as well. Jeff Teague out for the rest of the year, along with Lonzo Ball, who's been shut down because of that ankle injury at the Lakers. And then a more of a playoff team injury, just got acquired by the Milwaukee Bucks, still trying to find his way into that rotation, but you got Paul Gasol is going to be out for a month with an ankle injury as well.
Yeah, and the only other one that I think that we went over that is kind of big, I mean, it's not big, they're not a playoff team right now, obviously, but Tim Hardaway Jr., coming over from the Knicks, he's out for the season. He's actually got a stress fracture in his leg, so it's tough. At the end of the season, I mean, we know, at the end of the season, players are beat up. 82-game season, you're beat up the entire year. You play through some injuries, but towards the end of the season, if you're out of the playoffs, I could see you saying, hey, or the team saying, hey, you know what, you were going to have surgery at the end of the season. we're not in the playoffs anymore. Just go ahead and have surgery now. Maybe we can get you back, a little bit earlier or more healthy for next year.
Yeah, like I said at the top, why risk it? I mean, if you have a guy that's been playing with a bad elbow or anything an injury that can become a long-term injury that can affect their play or even link to the career, it's not worth it when your team's sitting in 11th and 12th place. I know a lot of these guys, or all these guys, want to suit up, go out there and play the game they love, but you got to be smart about it and be like, hey, look, like we said, we're not going to make the playoffs. We don't have right now. We're going to play our young guys. Let's get this guy taken care of. Whatever we have to do, procedure-wise, get them healthy for the summer so they can work on their game. Come back next year and try to be stronger. I know folks have missed it. They've asked where it's at. We were gone last week, so we apologize. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the Hillward Report.
Hey man, with March Madness and with the shots that people are making and shocking people, man, I got to come out with fire today. So I got to start with the hottest guy in the league this year, James Harden. You talk about James Harden, you talk about all the stats that he had, and I'll go into a couple of them here. But just in the last 10 games, 35 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. I mean, this guy is just going crazy. Again, in a win versus the Spurs, he had 61 points, 7 rebounds.
Golly.
Right, ties a career high. His 8th 50-point game of this season. 8th.
Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Oh, not to mention the fact that they lost the game before to the Grizzlies and he put up 57 points. But hey, 57 points followed up by 61. In a game against the Hawks, he had 31 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. The T-Wolves win there, 20 points. 2 rebounds, 10 assists. I mean, he's dishing the ball. He's getting rebounds. He's not Russell Westbrook getting triple-doubles every night, but he's getting dang close every given night. And he's out there playing defense. People talk about he doesn't play defense. He got 2 blocks, 1 block, 3 block. He's having 3 steals, 1 steal. I mean, he's getting steals every night of the week. So you got to talk about James Harden to start off. Another guy, man, if you didn't watch that game the other day, that Celtics-Hornets game was phenomenal. Kemba Walker, a guy that I always loved coming out of college.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You've been a big Kemba Walker fan since day one.
He reminded me of Allen Iverson. Like, it was like Allen Iverson and Kemba Walker were those two guys that one-on-one, who's going to stop him? Who's going to, like, the crossover, the step back, the get to the rim?
I'll never forget the UConn when they won the Big East tournament 3 straight games. That guy just put the whole squad in his back.
Yep. So, of course, Kemba Walker, I got to give a shout out to him. Last 10 games, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. In the game, in the win versus Celtics, he had 36 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. Actually scored 18 points in the fourth quarter in a 30-5 run. They were down 112-94 with 8 minutes and 22 seconds. As a matter of fact, if you look on Twitter and if you look on social media, Kyrie Irving's, you'll hear him talking about how he's upset how they just imploded and lost to the Hornets.
I read some of those comments.
It was just crazy watching that game. But he had 31 points in a win versus the Wolves, 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and in a loss versus Sixers, he had 21 points in that game as well. So those two guys are balling. I mean, we talk about Joel Embiid. Obviously, he's in the news because of the fine and the little scrimmage that he got in with Smart.
My earliest season MVP.
Man, he's coming on strong. The last 10 games, 29 points, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal. He had 27 and 12 in a loss at the Hawks. He had 37 and 22 in a win versus Celtics. That was a big game. And another win against the Bucks. One of the top team, in my opinion, in the East. He had 40 points, 15 rebounds, a block, and 3 assists. And then a win against the Kings, he had 21 and 17 with 4 blocks. I mean, he's coming on strong.
Playoff push, man.
He's really making a name for himself in the league. We talk about the process. We talk about where he came from, coming in from Kansas, and how far he's come, and what we expected and what we're getting is completely different. I didn't think he was going to be as dominant as he is. Another guy, man, Trae Young. Where do I even start with Trae Young? We'll get into the Luka Doncic Trae Young thing later, for Rookie of the Year, but Trae Young's been on fire lately. In the win against the Sixers, he had 32 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists. In a block, he actually hit the game winner in that game as well. In a win against the Jazz, 23 and 11 assists. He had 2 losses against the Rockets and the Magic, but he still had 21 points and 12 assists in one game and 20 points and 5 assists in the other. So you got to give a shout out to this guy Trae Young in Atlanta and what he's doing out there. couple more guys here real quick. Kawhi Leonard. I mean, we talk about the Raptors and who's the defining factor. It's Kawhi Leonard. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, we've talked about it. When he came from San Antonio to there, I wasn't really sure, giving up DeRozan and Kawhi, what's the big difference? Oh, there's a big difference, let me tell you. So Kawhi Leonard, last 10 games, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. In a loss versus the Thunder, he had 37, 6, and 4. And then, of course, the win against the Thunder, he had 27, 10, and 6. And then in a loss versus the Pistons, he had 33, 10, and 2. So, I mean, he's going to be up there for Defensive Player of the Year, clearly. Fun guy to watch, and who knows what they're going to do for the rest of the season with his load management and stuff like that. And then I got to end, we don't really give much love to the big guys. I got to give some love to my guy, Andre Drummond.
Rebound machine.
Right. I mean, we talk about the Pistons, and who are we talking about? We're typically talking about who? Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Because he's the superstar. But, man, this guy, Andre Drummond, is averaging 17 and 17 in his last 10 games. He's got 19 and 11 with a block in a loss versus the Blazers. He's got 16 and 19 with a block in a win versus the Suns. 21 and 21 with a loss at the Cavs. I mean, you just can't say enough about this guy. I was going to leave it to the end, but I got to go with it. We talk about Andre Drummond. As a matter of fact, this year, he's actually going 4 seasons, not straight, but just 4 seasons total in his career of 1,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 100 blocks, and 100 steals. Nobody else has done that for 4 seasons in their career. I mean, it's just...
Wow.
You talk about the guy when he came out, and obviously we knew who he was, but, I mean, just the fact that he's continued to do it, and I think he goes under the radar there in Detroit.
Yeah, and he's developing his game, too. His game has gotten improved. I mean, he's got a little bit of a jump shot. He's not just a back-to-the-basket guy. He's not stupid. He sees the way the league is turning and the way the game is changing. I mean, same thing with Blake Griffin. That's 2 examples of guys who saw the handwriting on the wall and kind of adapted their games to it.
100%. Now, I got to kind of give a quick shout-out to my guy Seth Curry. With CJ McCollum out, I got to point out the fact that he's got 16 rebounds, 5 rebounds, 16 points, 5 rebounds, in a win versus the Pistons, 20 points, 5 rebounds in a win versus the Mavs. So he's definitely coming out, making big difference there out in Portland as well. Now, we want to talk about some players that... not doing so well. I would say Rodney Hood, man. Rodney Hood, along with Seth Curry, stepped up. I don't think Rodney Hood's really stepping up. He had a chance coming there, and he's got 5 points and 2 assists, and 8 points and 2 assists in another game. I think Seth Curry's shown up and made a better mark for that team and could be that guy with C.J. McCollum down for a little bit. And then Marcus Smart. I mean, we talk about the Celtics, we talk about Kyrie Irving, we talk about Horford, but Marcus Smart, they're going to win. He's that glue guy. He's the guy, he's going to get the rebound. Right. He's going to go after your best player. He's 6 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists. And I believe that was the game that he got ejected with Embiid. And then 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. That's not what you're looking for from a guy like Marcus Smart. You need a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Last but not least, a couple of teams that I'm down on to start with. I mean, the Pacers, I know that they're number 4 in the Eastern Conference. But, they lost 4 in a row. They're 17 and 20 on the road this season. They're 3 and 7 in their last 10. So they're struggling. They're clearly going to make the playoffs because of where they're at. But we'll see what happens moving forward with that. Another team, and it's weird, I know, but Oklahoma City Thunder. I talked about how Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you never know what you're going to get with that team. They lost 4 in a row. The Heat, the Warriors, the Raptors, the Pacers. There's 4 and 6 in their last 10. I mean, this is not a good time for them. Now, a couple teams that I'm big on, man. The Clippers. Woo! We're talking about 9 and 1 in their last 10. Won 4 in a row. They're 7th in the Western Conference. I mean, we have them in our top 10 this week. We haven't had them in our top 10 in, I think, quite some time. Yeah. I have to go back and look.
Doc Rivers working magic down in LA.
That is crazy with trading Tobias Harris and still being there. I got to give props to them. The Nuggets. They won 6 in a row. They're first in the Western Conference. That's big. I mean, everybody kind of just penciled in Golden State.
Yeah, I know I did.
The Nuggets are just going along, and I can't leave it without saying it. And you said it earlier. The Orlando Magic. Are they going to make the playoffs? We'll go into that later. But the Orlando Magic, they won 4 in a row. They beat the Pacers. They beat the Warriors, the Hawks, the Grizz. They're 1 game out of the playoffs right now behind the Heat. And it is heating up in the East.